Hello everyone, it's Catherine here from Inky Fingered Cat. I'm having a slow mojo day, so I thought I'd do a technique video. And I thought I'd just stick the video on whilst I was listening to the radio and die cutting my scraps. So quite often I make my life so much easier by having things ready die cut to add as embellishments or extra bits and pieces, or having the sentiments ready or whatever. It just makes making a card so much easier if you've got some of these bits and pieces together and ready to go. And so what I do is I die cut all my scraps. So you can see here there's a big puddle that I've tipped out of the pouch, all the scraps. And these are scraps where they're small, so they won't do a card front. They're smaller than a card front, and sometimes they're really teeny tiny small, and you would probably have thrown them away. But I keep most of my scraps, not all of them, but most of the scraps. They go in a pouch on the desk, and when the pouch is getting quite full, or like today where I'm having a slow mojo day, and I'm just thinking, just get something done. You never know, it might spark the creativity, or if not, they're there for the next time I'm feeling like I want to be creative. And I just go through and I die cut a whole load of things. Now, for the most of this video, I die cut using a Stampin' Up! Retired set called Nature's Prints. Yeah, Nature's Prints. And part of the reason for that is because I'm actually going to sell the Stampin' Die set, because I don't use it very often, but I thought that these spriggy type leaves were perfect for doing this job with. So I thought, why not? And you can see there, I literally take tiny pieces of scraps that have already been die cut into or whatever. And if they're going to fit one of those tiny dies, perfect. Sometimes you have even smaller dies, like tiny little hearts or stars or whatever you can use these scraps for. So that's why I keep them, because then I feel like I'm getting the most out of my cardstock, especially coloured cardstock, which is quite expensive. So, because I buy good quality cardstock. So for the most of this video, it's going to be fairly dull because it's me doing the leaves. Now, obviously I choose colours that I think are going to work. So I keep the neutrals like blacks and whites and creams. Sometimes some browns get thrown in. But obviously for leaves, I'm also going to go for green. I've not cut bright pink leaves. Now, yes, there might be an opportunity to use bright pink leaves. But in those cases where I want to do that, I'm probably going to go and cut them specifically for the project. Whereas greens and neutrals I can use all the time, because generally leaves are green coloured, so you can usually use those. But I use white and black and stuff as sort of contrast type dyes. Die cuts in the backgrounds and things. So yeah, I do tend to choose things that I think I'm going to use again. But I do try to get the most out of each piece. Obviously there's some really skinny strips in the pouch of scraps. Some of them are too skinny to fit dies, so I will come up with a different way of using those, but for the moment I probably just pop them mainly back into the pouch of scraps, and we'll see how I get on with that. Now, I tend to die cut until I'm bored of a particular set. So at this point, I've got a bit bored doing all of those, or until I've got a fairly decent sized pouch, or I've run out of green. So in this particular case, I had run out of greens, and I thought that'll do for that. But as I decided I was going to get rid of this Stampin' Die set, I thought, actually, I want to cut a couple of those wreath type ones as well. So at that point, I grabbed this cream cardstock. Again, this is sort of scrap. This has been cut from a journal that I wasn't using anymore, and I thought, I'm not going to let the spare card go to waste. So I cut them all out, put them in a pouch. So I take one of those pieces of cream and I die cut a couple of the wreaths and a couple of the like the banner kind of shape. Again, it's quite a weird shape, so it's not something I'm going to use a lot of, so I didn't cut loads of them. But I thought I just want a couple, because I'm not quite ready to part with that wreath, but I am at the same time. I know I'm not going to grab it very often. I use a more symmetrical, uniform looking wreath far more frequently than I do this one. So, but from the little bits of the cream that were left over, I did cut a few more of those leaf sprigs, just because, again, I don't want anything to go to waste, and I've got the die set there, so why not? So that was that piece done. And then I wanted to just start again And this time with a couple of the cheaper dies that I've got in my set. These are like the little mini ones you can buy from the craft shops. So I've either bought them from Wilko's or from Hobbycraft or the range at various points. So I decided to go back through again some of those scraps and cut a few of those. Now 2 of these are sentiment dies and 2 of them are clearly quite big images. They're the hot air balloon and then the dragonfly. But I just decided to cut a few of these. Again, I'd pop the camera back on again so you could see what I was doing. Now, when I have done this, sometimes I spend the time then going and stacking them up and layering them and gluing them together. Didn't on this day. Just wasn't in the mood to do that either. So I popped them straight into the pouches. But you can see here, I'm just going through those scraps. Sometimes I'm using the neutral colours. Sometimes I'm using those quite bold colours. So all my dragonflies, I think, get cut out of purples. And my hot air balloons I do out of that sort of clarity colour and out of purple colours as I go along. Probably the dragonflies and the hot air balloons are not something I'm going to use frequently, so I don't cut so many of them. Not like the leaves where I use those all the time, and I'll add them into totally different creations, so floral things or just to embellish around a banner or a sentiment or something like that. I'll use those leaves all the time. Whereas something like a dragonfly or the hot air balloon, they're quite specific things, so I probably won't use those as frequently. So I only cut a few of them out. The sentiments, obviously, I'm going to use all the time sentiments, and it was nice to just get a few Christmassy things done. So then I stuck them all in the pouches, and that was me done. So I hope that was helpful to you to see what I do. As I say, slow mojo day, it's a perfect activity to do. So please like, subscribe, and until next time, bye bye.